Chapter 2101. The next day, Tangwa received a call from Zhang Xing. Zhang Xing was flustered and exasperated, as if he wanted to eat her up. It's Li Fan, right? It must be Li Fan. You two have been together for a long time, you shameless woman. Zhang Xing was in despair. Even though he was a man, he wouldn't lose out in this kind of thing. But when he thought about how he woke up in the morning with a few fat women in their 40s or 50s, he almost vomited. More importantly, these women were all famous rich women in the circle. Some of them were even in charge of big companies. Even if he wanted to do something, it was impossible. While he was in a daze, these rich women looked at him like wolves and almost ate him up. Sisters, let's go. There's still a meeting in the morning. I still have to go for a beauty treatment. I almost missed the time. Let's go. Anyway, we've already taken a lot of photos. If this kid dares to shout, I'll peel off a layer of his skin. But this soft skin and tender flesh taste pretty good. Zhang Xing was so angry that his eyeballs almost popped out. He swallowed a mouthful of blood. He knew these rich women. Because he knew them, he could only break his teeth and endure the pain. Li Fan. It's Li Fan again. At this time, Li Fan didn't know that he had taken the blame for Fu Yinji. Even though he knew that Li Fan was very powerful, Zhang Xing couldn't take it lying down. As he put on his clothes, he was thinking about how to teach Li Fan a lesson. Li Fan, who was hugging left and right, didn't know Zhang Xing's anger at all. During the weekend, Fu Yinji was in a good mood when he saw Tangwa coming to the library. Sure enough, this person had to be under his nose to be at ease. This morning, Zhang Xing called and scolded me. Tangwa looked up and said to Fu Yinji inadvertently, the scolding was especially unpleasant. My good mood this morning was ruined. Fu Yinji's expression stiffened. Then, he said naturally, Zhang Xing is not a good person. Why don't you break off the engagement? If necessary, I can help you. He's not a good person. You should have understood yesterday. And that book also wrote that he's unreliable. Since I'm begging you to treat my illness, I'll definitely protect you in the future. I won't let anyone bully you. Fu Yinji felt that this was a great excuse and hoped that he wouldn't recover so quickly. Zhang Xing originally planned to break off the engagement, but after thinking about it carefully, if he broke off the engagement, wouldn't that be helping Li Fan and that slut? He couldn't break off the engagement. Not only could he not break it off, he had to make Li Fan be like him and wear a green hat. Li Fan had so many women, he would definitely be able to find one. Zhang Xing managed to seize the opportunity after asking his men to spy on him for a few days. Zhang Xing did not dare to touch those with strong backgrounds. In the end, he chose Miao Han. Miao Han's family background was not bad, but it was far worse than the Zhang family. Even if Miao Han and Li Fan lived outside, she would still participate in some other activities. Therefore, most of the time, he didn't return to school with Li Fan. Zhang Xing didn't plan to show himself either. Instead, he stood behind the scenes and arranged for people to take Miao Han away and carry out his orders. He thought that it was impossible for Li Fan to know about such a plan. After all, he had never appeared before. But he underestimated Li Fan's strength. Li Fan used the mysterious thing in the system to track down the mastermind behind this matter. Zhang Xing long before this, he had already given his woman something to protect herself. Those people naturally didn't succeed. In the end, Zhang Xing was dragged out by Li Fan, and he personally crippled Zhang Xing with a kick. Peak. Chapter 2102. Zhang Xing screamed in pain as he glared at Li Fan, as if he wanted to eat him up. Li Fan glanced at him coldly and gently hugged Miao Han. If you dare to touch my woman, then you must be able to bear the price. The Zhang family doesn't need to exist anymore. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame the Zhang family for having Zhang Xing who dared to touch my woman. Miao Han was naturally extremely touched. Apart from other things, Li Fan was indeed good to his women. This was also the reason why those women were willing to follow him. In just 2 days, Tangwa received a call from her family. It was from her mother. Xiao Guo, the Zhang family is bankrupt. Zhang Xing has become a cripple and is still lying unconscious in the hospital. It was Li Fan who did it. He even said that anyone who dares to interfere in the Zhang family's matters is going against him. Zhang Xing has taken action against Li Fan's woman. Your father and I are discussing and planning to break off the engagement. You don't have any objections, right? No. Tangwa paused. This was outside of her expectations. Was Zhang Xing's brain stuffed with bean dregs? Li Fan was someone he could provoke. He clearly knew that Li Fan's reverse scale was women. His brother actually wanted to provoke him. If he didn't suffer, who would? Mom, how's the project with the Zhang family going? At the critical moment, the funds can still last for 10 days. Because of Li Fan's words, no one dares to interfere. Mother Tang's voice was also a little tired. Who hadn't heard of Li Fan? How did the Zhang family provoke Li Fan? That brat was no different from a mad dog when dealing with people. How could she know the reason behind this? At the same time, she was also glad that she didn't stake everything with Father Tang and gamble all of her assets. Even if this project failed, they wouldn't end up with nothing. Although it was a little unkind to say this project was participated in by the entire shareholders. It was everyone's responsibility. Moreover, this time, the matter happened to the Zhang family. It was the Zhang family who provoked such a fiend. The responsibility wasn't on the husband and wife. Even so, the loss to them was huge. Now, the shareholders had already decided whether or not they could let Li Fan invest in it. This project was very profitable, and they thought that Li Fan wouldn't refuse. Father Tang was the company's CEO, so he had to talk to Li Fan about this matter. Why should I invest in this project? Do I, Li Fan, still lack money? Li Fan looked at Father Tang with a smile on his lips. You should go find someone else. I'm not interested in this project. Director Li, why don't you think about it? Our company's people have already discussed it. If Mr. Li is willing, everything can be discussed. Father Tang didn't know that Li Fan had once taken a fancy to his daughter, the kind that he couldn't get and was even despised. Li Fan had already been pursued and liked by women. Every time Tangwa gave him a cold face, how could he stand it? If it was the original Li Fan, he would only complain in his heart before turning around and leaving. But the current Li Fan was different. He could be considered to be in control of two very powerful companies, and basically everyone was afraid of him. He had suffered losses in the hands of a woman over and over again. Moreover, Zhang Xing had provoked him and even threatened that even if he hooked up with Tangwa, he would only pick up her leftovers. How could Li Fan endure this? That was why he tormented Zhang Xing so much. He wanted to let that high and mighty young Miss Tangwa see how miserable her fiancé, Zhang Xing, was. In front of Li Fan, Zhang Xing was worse than a dog. His woman's dog cost at least 100,000 a month. Peak. Chapter 2103. Is there really anything to discuss? Li Fan had already asked someone to keep an eye on the Zhang family's family Tang, so he could receive news from them at any time. After all, he had made up his mind to not let the Zhang family make a comeback. The family Tang had already broken off the engagement with the Zhang family. He heard that Zhang Xing was very crazy in the hospital, shouting that he would not agree no matter what. In the end, the family Tang took out a few photos, leaving Zhang Xing speechless. It was said that those photos were of Zhang Xing and a few rich women in the circle. He was a little curious and asked someone to bring some photos back to look at. He almost vomited. He really didn't expect that Zhang Xing, who had such a beautiful fiancée like Tangwa, would actually have such a strong taste. He was really a ruthless person to play with a few rich women. He even suspected that the reason why the Zhang family could be where they were today was because Zhang Xing, this gigolo, had paid the price of selling his butt. Although he mocked him, Li Fan did not forget his purpose. Now, he was not afraid of anything and did as he pleased. He only wanted to get what he wanted. From the moment he came to this school, he was attracted to Tangwa at first sight. He also felt it. At first glance, Tangwa did not seem to like him. That was because Senior Tang did not understand him. When she understood him, she would know that he was not bad. I wonder what President Li's conditions are? Father Tang was not a fool. It was impossible for him to agree without mentioning the conditions. This time, Li Fan's smile was gentler, and his body was less arrogant. I heard that Senior Tang has already broken off the engagement with Zhang Xing. I have always had Senior Tang in my heart. If she... Before he could finish, he was interrupted by Father Tang. Impossible. Don't even think about it. It was no secret how many women Li Fan had. He had lived for more than half his life and had never seen such an arrogant young man. However, the other party had too many trump cards and no one could control him. He represented the company to discuss business matters with Li Fan, not to sell his daughter. The company did not belong to him alone. It belonged to everyone. If he really had to sell his daughter to keep this project and recover the losses, he would rather give up. Even if he had to exhaust all his efforts for the past few decades, he would not be willing to sacrifice his daughter. Even if Li Fan was very powerful and the families of the women who followed him were becoming more and more prosperous, he would not do this. Boss Tang doesn't have any sincerity then. Before Li Fan could finish, he was interrupted by Father Tang. There was anger in Father Tang's eyes. I also think there's no need to discuss this matter. With that, he turned around and left. Li Fan was a little annoyed and quickly said, Boss Tang, no one dares to interfere with that project now. Your desperate gamble will bring a huge crisis to your company. Maybe you won't be Boss Tang in the future. It's better to be a beggar than to sell one's daughter. Mr. Li, since we're not on the same page, goodbye. Father Tang was unmoved by force or persuasion, so Li Fan really had no other choice. This was different from what he had imagined. Even the principal of the school didn't object to his relationship with Su Shirling after knowing of his ability. He even smiled at him. Many of his father-in-law were amiable and polite to him. When they knew that he had taken a fancy to their daughter, they were all very happy. They weren't like Father Tang, who acted as if he was going to eat Tanggua. In his opinion, this was the unhappiness of family Tang people. As expected, this daughter and father were the same. I heard that you and Zhang Xing have broken off the engagement? Fu Yinji asked casually. Peak. Chapter 2104. Tanggua raised her eyes and nodded with a smile. He didn't want to and went crazy in the hospital. My father threw an envelope of photos to him. The Zhang couple couldn't afford to lose face and agreed. She hadn't told Father Tang and Mother Tang that Zhang Xing was planning to do something to her. Otherwise, the two of them wouldn't be so calm. The matter had already passed, so it was better not to talk about it, lest her parents get angry and hurt their bodies. Zhang Xing had already received enough of a lesson. Li Fan pressured your father to agree to a condition and let you follow him. Only then will he invest in that project. At present, no one dares to interfere in this matter. Oh. Seeing that Tanggua's reaction was calm, she even slowly drank a glass of water. The heat from the water floated to her face, making her face even more delicate. Fu Yinji wanted to take a closer look, but felt that it was impolite, so he quickly shifted his gaze away uncomfortably. If necessary, I can invest in that project for free, no conditions. In the end, he added, I still have to rely on you. Tanggua was about to go crazy from laughing in her heart. This guy had also met her. If it was someone else, wouldn't he be the second male lead? He didn't care about anything. It was free. He didn't want money. In this world, free things were the least cherished and the easiest to trample on. Do I look like I'm short of money? Fu Yinji came back to his senses and shook his head. No. He brought it up just to help her. We can be considered grasshoppers on the same rope, right? System. Not only on the same rope, but also in the same nest. Then don't waste money. The Tang Group is no longer the Tang Group of the family Tang. Let's wait and see how the shareholders react. Fu Yinji was not a fool. On the contrary, he was very smart and instantly understood what she meant. She was not short of money. If she wanted to save this project, she could throw in a sum of money herself. Those people who were picked up by her for charity were all doing well now. He didn't know what she gave them, or if it was as good as the business plans in Li Fan's hands. In any case, the development was very fast, as if they had already investigated the local market and understood all the needs clearly. As long as she said a word, not to mention a mere project, even 10 projects would not be a problem. The shareholders in the company forced her to agree to Li Fan. Although there were some discrepancies, Zhang Xing was not that miserable. But Zhang Xing deserved it. He didn't sympathize at all, and he even felt a faint sense of pleasure. This time, he didn't know what the shareholders would do. When are you going to treat me? Fu Yinji. Of course, his treatment wasn't to get close to the opposite sex. Every time, he couldn't walk in the crowd. The slightest touch of the opposite sex on his clothes would make his body feel uncomfortable. Tanggua looked at him with a faint smile. You seem to be very eager. I'm afraid that someone will use this method to attack me. It will cause my body to feel uncomfortable. After all, the entire Fu family needs me. Teague. Fu Yinji was stunned. The system thought that if he had a body, he would be rolling on the ground laughing. Fu Yinji stretched out his hand. His fingers were fair and slender. They were very good-looking. Under his incredulous gaze, Tangwa reached out and held his hand. Her small hand was warm and gave him a different feeling. Fu Yinji stared at the two of them holding hands without blinking. Chapter 2105. How do you feel? Tangwa leaned closer and asked. Fu Yinji's ears instantly turned red, and the blood vessels in his somewhat transparent ear flaps could be seen clearly. Pretty good. Fu Yinji answered seriously. You're indeed my medicine. I don't feel any discomfort at all. Your hands are so warm. Seeing such an adorable fellow, Tangwa couldn't help but stroke his head with her other hand. Fu Yinji looked at her affectionately. She explained, if you interact more, you won't have to be afraid of the opposite sex in the future. Your illness will naturally be cured. System. Fu Yinji, run. You've met a weird auntie. Okay. Fu Yinji pursed his lips and didn't refute. Then you should interact more with me. He retracted his gaze. Treating illnesses was pretty good. After hearing this, Tangwa didn't stand on ceremony anymore. She stroked Fu Yinji's head and pinched his face. Fu Yinji didn't resist and just sat there like an obedient child. Who could resist such an obedient child? The old butler had wanted to call Fu Yinji over for dinner. But when he walked to the corner of a bookshelf, he caught sight of the two of them and his eyes widened in shock. He quickly hid behind the bookshelf and peeked his head out to take a look. The shock and joy in his eyes almost made him jump with joy. Then, he left quietly. It was no wonder that young master didn't agree with his method. Young master had a better method of his own. When it was time for dinner, Tangwa finally let go of Fu Yinji and decided to go for dinner first. After placing the book back on the shelf, the two of them walked out tacitly. Even though they didn't verbally agree, it was as though they were going for dinner together. When they reached the door, Fu Yinji held onto Tangwa's hand and said, "Holding hands can cure illnesses." Tangwa raised her head and looked at him, causing him to feel uncomfortable. Wasn't this a little too fast? Wouldn't she dislike him for taking advantage of her when she was sick? At the thought of this, he was extremely conflicted and wanted to let go of her hand. He really didn't want to do that. Then, Tangwa said, "Why don't we hug each other? We'll be closer if we hug each other." System. Host, you're really shameless to the extreme this time. Fu Yinji was stunned as well, but he reacted quickly. Tangwa let go of her hand and put her arm around her shoulders. She smiled and said, "That seems to be the case. I feel much better." There was a smile in Tangwa's eyes. This guy. She even suspected that the other party had deliberately chosen such a body to take advantage of her and gain her sympathy. Speaking of which, it was strange. No matter if it was her or him, no one could tell that their souls and bodies were not compatible with each other. Instead, they were very compatible, as if this was their body in the first place. She would often laugh at this matter. If this was their body, then who was the soul in the past? Fu Yinji held on to Tangwa as they walked to the restaurant. They really looked like a couple. When they arrived at the dining room, Fu Yinji took the initiative to pull out a chair for her and helped her with everything. Even though he had never done such things before, he had done a lot of homework in this area recently and had read all the tutorials seriously. When the waiter came over to take his order, he approached him and handed him the menu. Fu Yinji's face was still as pale as a sheet. Peek. Chapter 2106. Fu Yinji finally understood that he still couldn't get close to the opposite sex if they got too close to him. Once they got too close, it would cause his body to feel uncomfortable. This was also the reason why he rarely ate outside. Basically, whenever he ate outside, it would be arranged by the old butler so that no one of the opposite sex would appear around him. This time, the old butler was very tactful and didn't care about anything. In his opinion, it was enough as long as there was a girl that young master liked. Tangwa saw Fu Yinji's pale face and told the waiter to pass the menu to her and let the waiter do his work first. Then, she moved the chair to Fu Yinji's side. Fu Yinji's handsome face was pale, and he looked at her with a pitiful gaze. Although she knew that this fellow was not so innocent and might be a wolf cub, she still touched his head and held his hand, asking softly, "What do you want to eat?" In just half a minute, Fu Yinji's face regained its color, and he held her hand tightly. "Don't move back. Just sit here and eat. My illness got worse just now." This sentence almost meant that he couldn't leave her and had to hold her hand all the time in order to survive. System. Heavens, these two shameless bastards are together. All right. Fu Yinji heaved a sigh of relief. Although he was a little shameless, she didn't seem to dislike him. He even let her touch his head. He washed his hair every day, and even knew how to do it. It should feel good to the touch. Tangwa didn't know what Fu Yinji was thinking, but if she didn't keep such a cute boy in her pocket, she would really be letting down this world. She even said to the system, "Take a photo of me holding hands with Fu Yinji and send it to the group." System. Fuck. Host, you're really too much. Even so, the system still did as she asked and took a photo of the dining table and where they were holding hands. Sighing, it sent the photo to the group. Indeed, when the photo was sent to the group, it caused a huge commotion. Mist Fairy. Seems like the school belle has met her boyfriend again. Zion. That boy is really lucky to have caught my sister's eye. Mo Yuntian. He's also very shameless. No matter where he goes, he's always by the girl's side. Margaret. Perhaps this is true love. Even curses can't stop it. When Yahweh, who was in the midst of filming, also saw the photo of Tangwa in the group chat, which was posted by the system in the group chat. When Yahweh, is the campus belle in love? She had been in this group for more than a year now. In this group, she gained true friends. These friends all came from very mysterious planes. Some of them were immortal cultivators, some of them knew magic, and some of them were from the future. Even though they were different from ordinary people, they were really approachable. They didn't look down on an ordinary person like her at all. Instead, they gave her a lot of help. She didn't have anything rare to give them in return. She could only buy some food and some of the world's recognized luxury goods for them. And the things they gave her were really too precious and too practical. She felt embarrassed every time they gave her something like this. Margaret, for example, had given her all kinds of charms, both good and bad. The bad ones had been locked up by her, and she didn't want to use them unless it was absolutely necessary. Instead, she liked good luck charms and charms that could instantly increase her strength. Previously, when they were filming a reality show in the wild, they encountered a problem. She used the good luck charms and successfully helped the people with her to avoid the flash flood. Peak. Chapter 2107. Later, when she was exhausted, she used the power talisman that Margaret gave her to fill her body with energy. However, she could only walk out alone and could not bring anyone with her. Only then did she ask for help from the people in the group. Ziyun sent her a pill that could be used by mortals. He even asked her if there were any pills that could replenish energy in this world and made them look like energy pills for her. The effect was not outstanding, but after eating it, people would slowly recover. Relying on her bottle of energy pills, the people who got separated from the crew finally walked out without any injuries. Everyone thought it was a miracle. This matter was kept secret. After all, her fans were crazy. If it was revealed, it would easily anger them. Now, she just wanted to be a good actress and did not want to be on the hot search list every day. Since the day her face was disfigured, she had been on the hot search list enough. On the other hand, she was secretly investigating who caused the accident that seemed to be an accident and how they got separated from the reality show. Could it be that that person had infiltrated her side? When Yahweh looked at the photo and could not help but ask, "Is the school bell also in the modern world?" In this group, she knew that there were many parallel universes. Even if this looked like a modern restaurant, it might not be in the same world as her. She did not delve into this and was just asking. The system answered on behalf of Tangwa, then didn't say anything. The people in the group were used to it. When Yahweh was also very busy. Just now, she was only looking at her phone while she was resting. She put her phone away and had to continue filming. When Yahweh also found that the people around her were discussing something enthusiastically. When they saw her, they hurriedly greeted her. She asked casually, "What are you all talking about?" "It's gone, Ying. I heard that she has entered the international market with her sugar daddy." She is currently filming a blockbuster in a certain country. She is also a very important supporting actress and has a lot of scenes. This movie should be released next year. Gan Ying has really entered the international market. Someone close to Wen Yue said, if it weren't for Yaoi's accident, she would be on par with Gan Ying now. Wen Yue just smiled and said, everyone has their own path. She knew that Gan Ying had a sugar daddy. In this circle, there were no secrets if you wanted to know anything. It all depended on whether your thigh was thick or not. If it was thick, no one would dare to mess with you. The golden thigh that Gan Ying was clinging onto was obviously very thick. Because of this, she could get whatever she wanted in the entertainment industry. If it had been in the past, she would have definitely competed with Gan Ying. But now that she had met with a disaster, she had seen through it all. She did not care about these things anymore. Acting was what she liked. It was actually not bad to take advantage of the current situation to change her style and become a real actress. Seeing that when Yue didn't care, everyone stopped talking about it. They only thought that Gan Ying was lucky. Actually, Li Fan is also not bad. Boss Tang, I think that agreeing to his suggestion and being able to keep this project is also a good thing. With the in-laws, this project will be stable. Not only was it stable, but with Li Fan as a big tree, his future was simply limitless. She was just a daughter. She was meant for a marriage alliance. They didn't understand what Father Tang was thinking. When Father Tang heard these words, he was so angry that he took a deep breath. Was that an in-laws relationship? Not to mention whether his daughter liked Li Fan or not, there were countless women by Li Fan's side. None of them had any status. To put it nicely, they were his lovers. To put it bluntly, they were his playthings. Father Tang's face darkened. I won't agree. Boss Tang, no one dares to invest in this project now. Our capital chain is about to break. Father Tang raised his eyelids and said calmly, why don't you send your twins to Li Fan? I don't think he will object. Also, don't you have a daughter who is taking the PhD exam? She is beautiful and cultured. Li Fan will definitely not refuse. Manager Chin, you have a niece who has been staying at your house for many years, right? Send them all over. Anyway, you guys don't object. Send them over together. Li Fan will definitely agree to this project. I think it's fine too. After saying that, Father Tang looked at everyone's ashen faces and was in a very good mood. These dogs only knew how to bully his precious daughter. Peak. Chapter 2108. No matter what, Father Tang didn't relent. The shareholders couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't really kidnap Tanghua and send her to Li Fan, right? Even if they wanted to, they wouldn't dare. If they really angered Father Tang, they wouldn't have a good ending. Then, they could only pressure Father Tang and Mother Tang. Even Tanghua's uncle found Tanghua and explained the pros and cons to her, as well as the difficulties the company was facing. If they didn't invest in it, the project would fail. At that time, not only would they not be able to get any benefits, they would also suffer a lot of losses. At that time, the entire Tang group might shrink greatly. At present, the outside world had vaguely heard that the Tang group's capital chain was about to break, and the stock price was falling every day. Uncle, what do you mean? Xiaoguo, you've been a good child since you were young. You're a member of the family Tang, and you have a share in the Tang group. Now that we've fallen into this situation, Uncle hopes that you can help us. Tanghua raised her eyebrows slightly. Then what does Uncle plan to let me do? Actually, it's not a difficult matter. You know that Li Fan, right? I heard that he and you are schoolmates, just 1 year younger than you. That young man is amazing. He's quite capable. As the family Tang uncle spoke, he looked at Tanghua's expression. Seeing that she was still indifferent, he couldn't figure out what she was thinking. But since he had found her today, he definitely had to make things clear. Your parents are now in a terrible state because of the company's matters. I presume you don't know about this, right? That's true. They're afraid that you'll be worried. So they definitely won't tell you about the company's situation. They only hope that you'll be happy like a little princess. But your uncle, I can't stand it anymore. No matter what, your father is my biological brother, and it's really not easy for our Tang group to develop to this point. More than half of this is his hard work. Uncle, what do you want to say? Just say it. Didn't you already break off the engagement with Zhang Xing? Uncle means that Li Fan, that young man, is not bad. I also heard that you have a good relationship with him and can talk to him. Can you see if you can ask him if he can invest in the project we're currently working on? Family Tang's eldest uncle did not directly say that he wanted Tanghua to become Li Fan's person. It could be seen that he still had some brains. He said that the company was in trouble and that father and mother Tang were very worried. She also said that Li Fan could solve this problem and that Tanghua knew Li Fan. If it was an ordinary girl, after hearing this, regardless of whether she really hated Li Fan or not, she would definitely look for Li Fan. At that time, whatever conditions she agreed to, it would all be of her own free will, and it would have nothing to do with him. Who would have thought that she would make such a sacrifice for Tang Kor? The family Tang's eldest uncle's plan was very good, but unfortunately, Tanghua did not take the bait. Uncle, I'm not familiar with Li Fan. He's just a playboy. He won't agree to invest just because of my words. How would you know if you don't try? Do you want to see the decline of Tang Kor with your own eyes? Seeing that the family Tang's eldest uncle was so anxious, Tanghua buried her head and smiled. Uncle, actually, for this project, if the shareholders pool together again, it might not be impossible to raise a sum of money to get through. The business under our Tang Group's name is still quite profitable. After these 2 months, we will be able to see the light of dawn. If you place your hopes on me, you might as well go back and find someone to raise the money. Xiaogua, if you really want to leave us in the lurch, your parents will really raise you for nothing. Peak. Chapter 2109. The angry look of Family Tang's uncle did not move Tanghua. She thought of something and sat down again. Seeing the other party become eager, she couldn't help but laugh. Uncle, I have a suggestion. Maybe we can make Li Fan agree to invest in that project. When the time comes, it might be a double blessing. What idea? At that moment, Family Tang's uncle really thought that Tanghua was going to give him an idea, so the way he looked at her was much gentler. Unexpectedly, Tanghua opened her mouth and said, Li Fan is a dissolute person and loves beauties the most. My 2 cousins are only a little older than me and haven't had a boyfriend yet, right? I remember that they are all very beautiful. Why don't you let your cousin and the others give it a try? Li Fan cherishes beauties the most. When the time comes, with a wave of his hand, investing in a mere project won't hurt him at all. Family Tang's uncle's face turned red. Just as he was about to jump up and curse, Tanghua turned around and left quickly. When she reached the door, she said, Uncle, if you really have no way out, this idea is really not bad. But I have to remind Uncle that this matter still depends on whether my cousins agree or not. If they don't agree, don't force it. If you agree, it would really be a wonderful thing. From now on, First Uncle will also be able to get on Li Fan's good side. Why not? Family Tang's uncle was almost angered to death. Was Li Fan a good man? There were countless women around him. If he really had the heart to sell his daughter, he would have sent her over long ago. His daughter grew up in the palm of his hand. It was absolutely impossible to send her to Li Fan as a plaything. The matter of Family Tang's uncle looking for Tang would quickly spread to the ears of Father Tang and Mother Tang. The 2 of them found Family Tang's uncle and quarreled with him. The 2 families could be considered to have completely fallen out. These dogs want me to sell my daughter? Why don't they wash their own daughter and send her over? If this knife doesn't cut their bodies, they won't know pain. Old Tang, let me tell you, if you dare to let go and let Xiaogua find that bastard Li Fan, I will fight you to the death. Mrs. Tang said fiercely, don't count your blessings. If you dare mistreat my Xiaogua, I'll chop you up with a knife in the middle of the night. Father Tang was so frightened that he quickly hugged Mother Tang and comforted her. It's been half a lifetime. Don't you know what kind of person I am? Don't worry. Xiaogua is our precious baby. How could I bear to part with him? Even if I have nothing, I won't sell my daughter. That's more like it. I didn't misjudge you. No matter what happens in the future, as long as our family is well, I will always be by your side. The old couple suddenly became emotional, as if igniting the fire of their former love. After a long while, Father Tang sighed, that Li Fan is somewhat against Xiaogua. I don't know how to pass this calamity. If I insist on not agreeing, based on that bastard's character, I'm afraid he'll think of other ways to pressure us. At worst, we can just give up on all of this. The things in our hands are enough for Xiaoguo to worry about for the rest of his life. Mother Tang had already thought about it. If Li Fan really wanted the Tang family to have a hard time, he would definitely want her daughter. With the shareholders forcing her, she would rather not have the Tang family. Father Tang's eyes darkened. Let's wait a little longer. If they don't change their attitude and Li Fan continues, I think I will deal with this matter. Easily withdrawing from the Tang family was not his style. Peak. Chapter 21:10. How much longer do we have to wait? Fu Yinji and Tanguo sat together. Even though they were reading, his left hand was still holding onto Tanguo's right hand. He was already used to holding her hand. Sometimes, when she wasn't around, he wasn't used to reading alone. He seemed to have forgotten his original intention of holding her hand. Now, he didn't want to recover at all. He was asking about Li Fan's matter. Now that Tang Corporation was in danger, if they didn't continue to invest in that project, the project could only be suspended. Even if it was suspended for a day, the impact would be huge. My uncle also came to look for me yesterday. Tanguo repeated Uncle Tang's words with a cold smile on her lips. Fu Yinji's expression turned cold as he heard her say, "Since that's the case, then let's leave it at that. I think my parents have thought it through very clearly and don't care that much about the current Tang Corporation. Although this is indeed the result of their hard work for most of their lives, I will give them something better in the future." Fu Yinji almost said that he could also give them something. If the two of them didn't mind, he could give them a company bigger than Tang Corporation. As for his motive, he was silent for a moment as he glanced at the beautiful lady beside him. His motive was naturally to please her. Yes, that was it. Tanguo suddenly felt that something was wrong. She looked up and saw Fu Yinji smiling alone. She really didn't know what he was so happy about. She didn't know what he was thinking about that made him so happy again. "You're so happy. Are you feeling better?" Fu Yinji replied obediently, "I don't know yet." "Then do you want to go out and try?" Fu Yinji was looking forward to it. He had never really gone shopping before. After all, there were many females who liked to go shopping. When it was crowded, it was inevitable that they would bump into each other. The two of them put the books back on the bookshelf and walked out of the school gate hand in hand. Looking at the people coming and going, Fu Yinji directly hugged her in his arms and said seriously, "I think it's safer this way. If anything happens to me, please take me away from the crowd." Okay. Tanguo saw the thin, red, and transparent ears of the other party and pursed her lips into a smile. She didn't expose his clumsy lie. She was so silly and adorable. Fu Yinji didn't sense her objection and hugged her even tighter. When she wasn't paying attention, he exhaled gently. The way the two of them hugged each other on the street really looked like a couple. Even though it was winter, the onlookers felt warm looking at the handsome man and beautiful woman. No one suspected that they were a couple. System. They were originally a couple. No, they should be an old married couple. However, they had always been so intimate with each other that he was flustered. Oh no, he was already stupid. He was just a system. How could he have a heart? The old butler secretly stood at the school gate and watched the scene of his young master hugging the little girl with a smile on his face. Young master was indeed a genius. No wonder he didn't like his rotten idea. If he had really followed his idea, the two of them would probably be deeply in love. But young master's method was different. From the beginning, it was as sweet as honey. From now on, it would definitely be as sweet as honey. In this lifetime, it would definitely be as sweet as honey. It had only been a short while, and he was already hugging her waist. The old butler raised his head and looked at the dazzling sun, thinking that the weather today was really good. Although he was a little worried about young master, with that little girl around, young master would definitely be fine. Senior Tang, it's really been a long time. Peak. Chapter 21:11. Li Fan didn't think that he would meet Tanguo on the street. Furthermore, he saw her hugging another stranger. This scene stung his eyes and made him lose face. Li Fan kept staring at Fu Yinji. Only Fu Yinji could understand the hostility in his eyes. He didn't show any signs of weakness. His cold and indifferent gaze lightly landed on Li Fan's body, causing Li Fan to feel uncomfortable all over. Fu Yinji's unique temperament could only be learned from growing up in a good family. It was something that others couldn't learn. Whether it was Fu Yinji's appearance, height, or temperament, they all made Li Fan feel a sense of inferiority. It was as if no matter what he did or how powerful he was, he couldn't compare to this seemingly cold youth in front of him. In front of the other party, he had the feeling that he was a country bumpkin. This feeling was naturally not good, but he quickly reacted. Right now, he was the only one who could wear sneakers and even canvas shoes to the banquet. In the beginning, when he went to some banquets, he was mocked by countless rich second generations for not wearing formal clothes and only wearing sportswear and casual shoes. In the end, these people were still slapped in the face by him. Until now, everyone had tacitly agreed that he, Li Fan, was different. No matter what he wore to the high-end banquet, no one dared to mock him. In front of him, all of them were like grandsons. "Is this senior sister Tang's boyfriend?" Li Fan asked with a smile. "I've never seen him before." His mind was also quickly trying to recall Fu Yinji's name. Unfortunately, ever since he made a name for himself, he rarely went to the library. He spent most of his time in the villa hanging out with his women or looking at his women with careers. Naturally, he didn't know that Fu Yinji was in the library every day. "My name is Li Fan." "Fu Yinji." "Fu Yinji?" Li Fan narrowed his eyes. He was unfamiliar with this name, but this didn't mean that he couldn't find out the other party's information. In a short period of time, Li Fan separated a bit of his mind and immersed himself in the system space. There were all kinds of items he bought inside. Some of the items he bought from the system store could be taken out and used, while some couldn't. He found a rectangular machine in the corner that looked like a phone and entered the name Fu Yinji on the screen. At that moment, something surprising happened. All of Fu Yinji's information was displayed on it. At the same time, Li Fan didn't know that the system had already connected to the system space and told Tanghua what he had seen. There are quite a lot of things inside, but many of them have limited uses. Even if Li Fan bought it, once the number of times he used it up, the item would turn gray and he would never be able to buy it again. In any case, the system was implying that the system store was not high level, even if there were a lot of different types. After Li Fan found out who Fu Yinji was, he bid farewell to Tanghua and left. When he looked at Fu Yinji, his eyes were filled with provocation. He's gone overboard. He actually wants to touch the host cutie. Host, get him. Tanghua's lips curved. Okay, deal with him. That person seems to be up to no good. Fu Yinji whispered to Tanghua, "Is it because of his system store? I have a feeling that at that moment, he seemed to know everything about me." System. What kind of intuition is this? It's really amazing. Tanghua wrapped her arms around Fu Yinji's waist. "Don't worry, with me here, he won't hurt you." Fu Yinji. It's a little strange. Peek. Chapter 21:12. Li Fan first put pressure on the Tang family, and at the same time, sent people to a certain country. This country was the headquarters of the Fu family. The system instantly reported these things to Tanghua. The last time Li Fan used the system space in front of them, the system had already infiltrated it. After his experiment, he told Tanghua that he could block the binding between Li Fan and the system space at any time. For this reason, he even showed off in front of Tanghua. After receiving the praise, he eagerly went to monitor the system space. As soon as possible, seal up some of the things that are too heaven-defying. After all, these things have to be handed over to the country. Things that are too evil are not suitable for this world. For example, high-tech information that is beneficial to the country's development can be left behind. This will help the country become stronger. In fact, with her powerful mental strength, she could also block the connection between Li Fan and the system space, but it would be a little troublesome. With Xiao Tongzi around, it would be much more convenient. As for those strange pills, let's seal them. With more strange energy, it's inevitable that there will be a few more people like Li Fan. Tanghua was not interested in the things in the system space at all. To be precise, she didn't like them at all. It wasn't that there weren't any good things, but she had better things in her hands. As for the things that Li Fan used, most of them were things that didn't require her to spend any effort on. She wasn't interested in these things. Ready-made things were easy to use. But there would come a day when they would be used up, and they would even hinder her progress. Compared to using ready-made things, she preferred to learn this kind of thing first. Once she learned it, it would be inexhaustible, endless, and endless. The Tang family couldn't stand Li Fan's pressure and once again pressured Father Tang and Mother Tang. At the same time, Li Fan also sent people to a certain country. Without waiting for the results, he called Tanghua. Senior Tang, I can help the Tang family get through this difficult time. As for the conditions, you should know. What is it? Hearing Tanghua's calm voice, Li Fan was unhappy. He smiled and didn't care. In any case, she would soon know what despair was. When the Tang family was defeated, she would be a sinner, and her parents would lose everything. He didn't believe that she wouldn't be moved. Senior Tang, I've liked you for a long time. I have a boyfriend. Fu Yinji? That's right, Tanghua admitted. Although the two of them didn't break up their relationship under the current situation, it was only a matter of time. But he can't help you, Senior Sister Tang. If he really cared about you, he would have taken action a long time ago. As long as you follow me, I promise to treat you well. He almost said, don't be so tactless. My boyfriend is calling. Sorry, Junior. Bye-bye. When the call was hung up, Li Fan was so angry that his face darkened. He made a phone call and instructed his men to continue dealing with Tang Core. Father Tang and Mother Tang looked at the faces of the shareholders, looked at each other, and finally made a decision. I would like to resign from my position as the CEO of Tang Core. Amidst the commotion and scolding of Father and Mother Tang, Father Tang's voice silenced the meeting room. I also choose to resign from my current position in Tang Core. Everyone present thought that they were crazy. However, the two of them were serious. They placed everything they had on the table and walked out of the meeting room hand in hand. At the door, Father Tang turned around and smiled as he said to them, I sold my shares a few days ago. Without waiting for everyone's astonishment, the two of them walked out of the building with ease. Outside the building, the person waiting was actually Tanghua. She smiled and said to the two of them, Dad, Mom, I'm here to pick you up. The two of them felt a warmth in their hearts. Only then did they notice that Tanghua was holding the hand of a handsome youth. That youth's eyes seemed to be glued to their daughter. Peak. Chapter 21:13. This is Fu Yinji. Tanghua introduced the two of them. Seeing the two of them staring at where she and Fu Yinji were holding hands, she explained, He's a little sick. The two of them looked at each other. So he was sick. But even if he was sick, it didn't matter if their baby liked him. He was so good-looking and pleasing to the eye. It made them happy. His illness is that he can't get too close to the opposite sex. Recently, I was asked by him to treat his illness. Tanghua said seriously, and even raised the place where they were holding hands. I'm treating him now. The two of them nodded and got into the car, expressing that they understood. They didn't expect their baby to be so bad. She had kidnapped such a beautiful young man and even used such a clumsy excuse to take advantage of him. But with that appearance, who wouldn't want to take advantage of him? Tanghua and Fu Yinji got into the same car while the couple sat in another. At this moment, they didn't know what nonsense the two of them were thinking. Let's rest for a while and then move to another place. Now that our Xiaogua has taken a fancy to a beautiful young man, it's obvious that he's been raised well. We can't just sit around and eat. I think so too. Then let's hide a little further away, just in case. When the time comes, we won't appear and find a professional manager to help us with the superficial matters. Li Fan may be powerful, but he also has a lot of troublesome matters. Mrs. Tang frowned. I don't know what trump cards he has. No one has the intention to touch him. I just don't know how long he can last. I don't know either. This person is very strange. Since his third year in high school, his life has changed drastically. Now that he's so high profile, others probably don't dare to touch him because they can't figure out what trump cards he has. I heard some rumors before that the higher-ups have the same concern. Otherwise, with his arrogance, just sleeping with so many women every day is enough to make him suffer. What if no one ever goes against him? This was Mrs. Tang's worry. Mr. Tang was silent for a moment and held her hand tightly. Then let's be ordinary people and hide a little further away. If we can't win, we'll avoid the edge. Let's talk about that young man. Mrs. Tang thought of the scene just now. Old Tang, I saw him just now. He's really compatible with our baby. They are quite compatible. Mr. Tang nodded. I feel that he likes our baby a lot. Xiao Gua is in his eyes. Although he's silly, he's too handsome. Mr. Tang was a little excited. I really didn't expect that I would have such a handsome son-in-law. Fuck you, old pervert. Seeing Father Tang's unhappy expression, Mother Tang quickly coaxed, in my heart, you're the most handsome. No one can compare to you. Then why did you say that your son-in-law is the best looking? Host, I'm a little dizzy. After eavesdropping for a while, the system felt bad. It just wanted to go out and get some fresh air and eat less dog food. It thought that the air at Mr. and Mrs. Tang's place would be clearer. It didn't expect that place to be even more disgusting. Hearing the system's words, Tanghua almost laughed crazily. All right, host. Li Fan's people have already gone to your Dekiai's place, but they were taken care of by your Dekiai's people. However, he probably won't be satisfied. After a long while, she stopped laughing. Got it. Then strip Li Fan's system store. At the same time, send a message to the country saying that Li Fan's secret is in his personal jade pendant, that jade pendant of the worst quality. Chapter 21:14. The leader was naturally very surprised by a letter that suddenly appeared on his computer. This surprise was both surprise and horror. Especially the signature at the end of the letter, it was actually an alien passing by Blue Planet. The leader read the letter from beginning to end. It mainly introduced Li Fan's system store and also said that the other party had already separated the connection between the Jade Pendant and Li Fan. The other party had not discovered it for the time being and asked him to send someone to take the Jade Pendant away as soon as possible. At the same time, it also taught him the method to open the Jade Pendant. As long as he dripped blood on it, anyone's blood would do. He would be able to open the Jade Pendant and sense the system space. This mysterious alien also said that he liked Blue Planet very much. It was just that it was too backward, and it was very inconvenient to travel. It just so happened that there was a lot of high-tech information in the system space. He hoped that they would use it carefully and strengthen Blue Planet as soon as possible so that it could connect with the other planets in the universe. Regarding this very detailed letter, the leader had a skeptical attitude. This was his computer's highest security setting. After the incident, he had called someone to check it. There was no hacker attack. Li Fan's actions had already touched their bottom line, especially when the other party was becoming more and more arrogant. He simply did not care about the consequences. There were several times when he caused countless turmoil in the domestic enterprises because of his own selfishness. A company that was destroyed by him, it was obvious that there were countless factories. When the factories closed down, no one dared to take over. Those ordinary migrant workers would face unemployment. Although they tried their best to save it, Li Fan's attack was to kill the other party. Even if they gave all kinds of preferential policies, no one dared to take over. This gave them a headache. They didn't know his trump card. In addition, the other party had mysterious and evil things in his hands. They really didn't dare to make a move against him easily. Just last month, something happened in Fusang country. It was said that one of Li Fan's women was an assassin sent by Fusang country. Because that woman had sided with Li Fan, a certain organization in Fusang country naturally wouldn't tolerate it. They sent many people to kill her time and time again. This time, Li Fan was infuriated. He went to Fusang country alone and used some unknown method to destroy that organization by himself. Not only that, Li Fan could actually enter and leave the emperor's office at will. The other party couldn't even catch him. Li Fan even smashed the emperor's computer and left a message for them, telling them to be tactful. These things were all top secret. When they received this news, they were all very silent. So powerful and mysterious, how could they dare to do anything to Li Fan without any guarantee? The leader gathered the others and took out the letter he had received from the aliens for discussion. Some people thought that they could give it a try, while others thought that they shouldn't act rashly. If they angered Li Fan, they didn't know how the other party would jump up and bite them. At the side, the system couldn't stand it anymore and sent them another message. You Blue Planet people are really stupid. Doesn't that Li Fan like women? Why don't you just send a spy to confuse him and steal his jade pendant? Did he have to directly invite him over for tea? Host, this is how it is. The system told Tang Guo about its great achievements. A very beautiful woman has already appeared by Li Fan's side. What the host said was right. One must know how to be flexible in everything. Tang Guo, this dog is getting worse and worse. Vertex. His expression changed, and he turned over and got out of bed. Brother Fan. Li Fan didn't pay any attention to Su Shirling behind him, as well as Wu Shui, who had already woken up. He hurriedly walked towards the office and didn't even notice that his slippers were on the wrong side. Wu Shui looked at Li Fan's back and was somewhat puzzled. What's going on? Little Fan is in such a hurry that he's wearing his shoes backwards? I'm not sure either. Sister Shui, did something happen to our sister again? Su Shirling said with a hint of jealousy. Every time Brother Fan gets so angry, it's because something happened to our other sisters. Wu Shui also felt that this was the case. Both of them wanted to sleep for a while more. In fact, she was not so kind as to care about the safety of others. Everything was just because Li Fan liked it and was just putting on an act. No woman was willing to share her man with others. Vertex. Chapter 21:16. Li Fan locked himself in the office for half a day before his women felt that something was wrong and went to knock on the door to ask what was wrong. In the beginning, Li Fan said that there were some things and they should not disturb him. His attitude was relatively gentle. Later on, because of the disappearance of the system store, Li Fan became manic, especially the things he bought. Because of the disappearance of the system store, even those things disappeared. Unless there was a need to hurt, he would never take out these things. Even if it was his women, he did not want them to know this secret of his. Even if his women knew that he was very mysterious and could take out some magical things, he did not intend to expose the system store. Even Wu Shui was the same. Now that the system store was gone, he could not take out anything else. He was able to have today, to be able to slap the faces of all the upper echelons of society, to have endless money to spend, to be able to make his goddess, and to make all the women he fancied his own. Wasn't it all because of the system store? Why did it disappear? Why is there nothing left? It was clearly bound. Li Fan's eyes were absent-minded as he collapsed on the leather chair. He could not even lift his fingers. Li Fan, you have already reached the peak of life and have also obtained a fair, rich, and beautiful woman. So the mission of the system store has been completed. After possessing the system store for so long, you should have grasped countless knowledge and obtained unlimited benefits. For the rest of your life, you will have to rely on yourself. Who are you? You are the system store? Why do you want to untie me? Can you rebind me? Li Fan, you have already reached the pinnacle of your life. The mission of this system store has been completed. Next, this system store will go to other planes to find those depressed people, bind with them, and help them reach the pinnacle of their lives. Li Fan, you are already a mature person. You have to learn to use your own ability to obtain everything. Do you think that the things that the system store has provided you all these years are not enough? Even a pig can marry a fair, rich, and beautiful woman. Before Li Fan could get angry, the mechanical voice disappeared. No matter how Li Fan shouted, the other party did not appear again. System, have I ever told you that you are like a dog? The system was unhappy. Host, I am not a dog, but I am your lackey. Tang Guo, did you go and scare Li Fan because you were bored recently? No, I'm going to tell Li Fan that although he doesn't have the system shopping mall, he has obtained countless benefits from the system shopping mall. Right now, he still has 2 companies under his name, countless money, and so many wives that are his motivation. As long as he works hard, he won't have to worry about food and drink for the rest of his life. He will still be at the peak of his life. As a mature person, he shouldn't blindly ask others for fish. He should learn to fish for himself. Only by learning the skill would one be able to obtain a steady stream of items. Wasn't this what the host told me? I was just reminding him out of kindness when I saw how impatient he was. After following Tang Guo to so many worlds, there was no lack of people in this world who reaped without sowing. Of course, There was also no lack of people who seized every opportunity and worked hard to finally reach the peak of life. He didn't think that this was wrong. Vertex. Chapter 21:17. If it was a smarter person, the other party would have used the items in the system store to create a global sensation in the past few years, and no one would have noticed anything unusual. Tangua did not refute the system's words. She only felt that her little Tongzi was becoming more and more like a human. She did not want to pay attention to what would happen to Li Fan next. From the time Li Fan obtained the system store until now, it had only been a few years. From nothing to the peak of life, hugging left and right. Without something to rely on all of a sudden, a person with a bad mentality would not be able to bear it. The worst thing that could happen was to return to the beginning. Of course, those who had been harmed by Li Fan might not be willing to let him go. Because of Li Fan's situation, they did not dare to kill him. But just being pushed aside was something that Li Fan could not bear. When he had such a heaven-defying item like the system store, he did not properly improve himself. Now that he did not have that thing, his mind was probably blank. How could he have the same spirit as before? I heard that they are already studying Li Fan's jade pendant. After dinner in the evening, Tangua led Fu Yinji out for a walk, saying that she was here to help him treat his illness. Fu Yinji did not think that there was anything wrong with him. Recently, his illness had been much better. Tangua was not surprised that Fu Yinji was able to get such news. Many people should have received such news, especially big families like the Fu family who wanted to bring back from abroad. Li Fan, this trouble, was no longer a threat to them. They would definitely leak some news to let these big families return with peace of mind and pull up the economy of their country. Did you do it? Yes, Tangua admitted. The corners of Fu Yinji's lips curled up, and he held her hand tightly. Don't tell anyone else. It was done by an alien. A kind-hearted alien who likes to travel and wants the blue planet to slowly develop. Tangua was extremely adorable by Fu Yinji's cautious look. She could not help but pinch his good-looking face. His skin was indeed very soft. Pinching can help treat the illness. Tangua put down her hand and said seriously. She did not think that she was lying to an ignorant youth at all. Fu Yinji nodded. With a smile in his eyes, he replied, and, as long as it's good for treating the illness, you can do whatever you want. Anything is fine. Anything is fine. Fu Yinji's face was not red and his heart was not beating fast. In fact, his ears were already completely red. Just do it directly. I will fully cooperate. Shouldn't the patient cooperate with the doctor? The patient must listen to the doctor and do as the doctor says so that the illness can be cured as soon as possible. The system didn't say anything. It felt that this guy was too flirtatious. What kind of patient and doctor were they? They were quite good at role-playing. The two of them found a place to sit down. It was the seat of a swing. They sat side by side with their fingers crossed. It was obviously very cold, but around them, it was steaming hot. Tangua stared at Fu Yinji without blinking, making him feel uncomfortable. Do you want to do something? I've thought of a better way that might help with your illness. What's the method? No matter what method it is, will you cooperate? Fu Yinji paused for a moment before replying like an obedient child. I've said it before. Patients must listen to the doctor before they can be cured. All right, don't move now. I'm going to treat you. Vertex. Her eyes were full of smiles as she replied, Okay. To be safe, let's find an opportunity to sign a contract. Fu Yinji said nervously. If it weren't for the fact that his hand was already on her waist, and he was hugging her as they walked back, others would really think that they were talking about treatment. System. So be it if you want to get married. Why are you talking about signing a contract? Human men and women are really incomprehensible. They're so roundabout when it comes to dating and getting married. They're not direct at all. Peak. Chapter 21:19. Tangua and Fu Yinji were engaged. At the same time, the Fu family was gradually moving their headquarters back to the country and receiving numerous preferential policies. But only the old butler knew that no preferential policies could compare to his young master's engagement. The Fu family had finally welcomed a mistress who could spend the rest of her life with his young master and treat him well. His young master had been the happiest in the past 2 years. The family Tang couple had never objected to the couple's relationship. In fact, they were very optimistic about it. They had lived for so long and had seen all kinds of people. They could tell at a glance whether someone treated their daughter well or not. Besides, they didn't think that Fu Yinji was an incompetent person. They had never seen anyone better than him. Apart from some minor issues, there was nothing wrong with him. But they had never expected that Fu Yinji was the mysterious young master of the Fu family. He was the man who could cause an international sensation with just a stomp of his feet. The day after the engagement, they still felt that they were dreaming, and their future son-in-law's sincerity in getting engaged was to transfer most of his shares to their precious daughter. Even the old butler's eyelids twitched. His young master was too crazy this time. Who would lie to me? She would never do that. Fu Yinji said to the old butler. She wouldn't lie to me. Butler, don't worry. The old butler couldn't help but ask, Young master, why are you so sure? I'm going to be hers soon. Why would she lie to me? Besides, I'm so compatible with her preferences. She won't be able to find anyone else in this world. I saw it the other day. She only has eyes for me. Old butler, when did young master start following idol dramas? All right, as long as young master likes her. It wasn't that the old butler was confident in Tang Guo, but rather, he was confident in his young master. The young master was naturally intelligent. Even if he was cheated, he was still young. If he wanted to start a new life, it would be a matter of minutes. Besides, he also felt that Tang Guo didn't seem like the kind of girl who would lie to his young master. He heard that she had a lot of assets under her name and countless connections. After thinking about it, she didn't seem to have any motive to cheat his young master. Fu Yinji had been rather busy lately. Besides, he could openly bring Tang Guo along because she owned a majority of the Fu family shares. Even if there were some people who complained, they did not dare to do anything to the future mistress of the Fu family. Li Fan's side was more miserable. After calming down that day, he pretended that nothing had happened. The voice that had disappeared was right. Now that he had everything, it was not impossible for him to maintain it. It was just that imagination was beautiful. Those who had received the news were already secretly causing trouble for Li Fan. Without the system store, Li Fan was just a paper tiger. Now, he basically didn't attend any banquets. If he had nothing to do, he would hide in the villa and call his subordinates to solve the problem. Of his 2 companies, one was a technology company and the other was a pharmaceutical company. This was especially true for technology companies. The most important thing was innovation. Once a product could not keep up with the times, it would be eliminated. In the past, all the information was provided by Li Fan, and they were only responsible for testing and production. Now that the information was gone, the company was naturally in a crisis. It was the same for the pharmaceutical company. In order to not be so high profile, Li Fan only took out some of the most superficial information. If there was a specialized pharmaceutical research team, they might be able to hold on. However, they would also need a large amount of funds to invest. The 2 companies were somewhat lacking in manpower, causing Li Fan to be in a terrible fix. Peak. Chapter 2120. Recently, Li Fan's women had been looking for him for all sorts of things. This was the first time he felt that having more women was troublesome. If it was in the past, he wouldn't have thought that these were troublesome matters. Now, he suddenly realized that without the system store, everything seemed to be restricted. He dared to casually enter and exit the most confidential offices of other countries only because he had the invisibility talisman and the Vajra talisman. The reason why he was able to get there so quickly was because he had the teleportation talisman in the system store. He had bought a lot of strange talismans, but unfortunately, they were all placed in the system store. Now that the system store was unbound from him, there was nothing left. Ah Fan, I've taken a fancy to a role. I feel that it's quite suitable for me. I heard that the role has already been decided. Can you help me think of a way? Gan Ying's call came early in the morning. Li Fan was already very angry, But when he heard Gan Yingying's request, he sighed in his heart. What role? But in front of his own woman, he couldn't show weakness. I'll send it over for you to see. I really like this role. If a fan invests, maybe you can help me fight for it. What fight for it? Wasn't it just intercepting it? In the past, doing this was just a piece of cake. Even if the other party didn't agree, he had plenty of ways to make the other party agree obediently. Gan Yingying's appearance was seductive, sexy, but not glamorous. This was one of his women who was very special. In the past, no matter what Gan Yingying wanted, he would do his best to help her solve it. Every time he saw Gan Yingying's cute and lovable appearance, he was very satisfied. The big star that he didn't dare to ask for in the past was actually acting coquettishly in his arms. No man could resist that kind of exciting feeling. In the end, Li Fan still called a certain director to express his intentions. He didn't expect to be rejected and even said that they didn't lack money. Moreover, this movie was invested in by the main character himself. He, the director, was originally pulled in to help. If it was the original Li Fan, he would definitely snatch it away, no matter what method he used. Now that the system store was unbound, he naturally had no other choice. Gan Yingying was very disappointed, but when she thought that things were indeed different this time, she expressed some regret, expressed a few words of concern for Li Fan, and then hung up. Li Fan also ignored the coldness in her tone. Right now, his mind was still in a mess. To him, these women had all become trouble. Sister Yingying, how is it? A fan can't do anything about it this time. Gan Yingying was naturally in a bad mood, but she wouldn't show it and ruin her image. One troublesome matter after another was approaching Li Fan. Every now and then, his women would come to him for help with all sorts of things. It was either that their family had a very important project that required his investment, or that there was a banquet that required his attendance, or that they wanted to do something that required his presence. In the past, Li Fan was willing to do these things. He even enjoyed seeing the admiring gazes of the women. Now that he saw their calls, he subconsciously wanted to hang up. Women were indeed troublesome. Those women did not achieve their goals when they looked for Li Fan, so naturally, they could not hold back their face. As the higher-ups researched the Jade Pendant System store, the news that Li Fan had lost his greatest reliance was gradually known by others. Many of the larger family businesses had heard about this. Vertex. Chapter 21-21. Li Fan did not realize that some of his women rarely returned to the villa. These women would only occasionally stay in his big villa. It had only been a week since he was unbound from the system store, and they had not shown their faces. It was not until half a month later that Li Fan suddenly realized that the villa seemed to be getting more and more deserted. Recently, he had been very busy. Not only did he have to deal with those troublesome women, he also had to deal with those good-for-nothings from the two companies under his name. He had given them so much money and invested so much, but in the end, he did not use the system store's information and they could not research anything. If this was not good-for-nothings, then what was? The first to be affected was the technology company. It was obvious that they could not come up with anything more innovative. As for the pharmaceutical company, it was still better at the moment. After all, in this world, it was already very shocking to have a medicine that could quickly remove scars. As long as they operated well, they might be able to obtain a huge amount of wealth. Even if there were better effects in the future, the price would be correspondingly higher. Treating some small scars would be better than buying cheaper ones from his family. They could even derive some beauty and makeup products. But Li Fan did not think so. He thought that without the system store, the two companies under him would have no future. Therefore, he was very flustered, so flustered that he did not know what to do. Especially the suppression from various places, it made him want to retreat. He had already confirmed that the system store would not return. It was also impossible for him to return to his former glory days. He had offended so many people. Those people would definitely not let him off now. Time passed day by day. Tanghua could hear news about Li Fan from the system every day. So this person is an empty shell. Fu Yinji wrapped his arms around Tanghua's waist. The two of them were nestled on the sofa watching the financial news. Currently, there were countless upheavals in the country. But these upheavals were all good. Without the uncertain factor of Li Fan, although many companies had collapsed, many new companies had now risen, and they were still heavily supported. Among them, who knew how many of them had been destroyed by Li Fan and restarted with a new name? Li Fan's prediction was correct. These people would not let him have an easy time. Even if they did not want his life, their two companies would not be able to operate smoothly. If Li Fan had the ability to support these two companies, that would be his ability. Actually, the prospects of these two companies are not bad. Even without the follow-up magical information, they can occupy a large part of the domestic market with this starting point. But I heard that Li Fan plans to sell these two companies. Fu Yinji smiled faintly and said, I also heard that he's trying to settle the immigration procedures, but it seems to have failed. He's now banned from leaving the country, let alone immigrating. The people at the top were not fools. Although Li Fan did not have the system shopping mall, he still had a lot of money in his hands. Once he brought a huge amount of money and immigrated, it would be a huge loss to his country. Who could guarantee that he did not have anything dangerous in his hands that would pose a threat to his country? Most of his women ran away, Tangwa said with a smile. I thought he was sincere, but it turned out to be nothing more than that. System. All right, stop making sarcastic remarks. If you want to show off your love, then show it off. Tangwa turned on her phone and sent a text message to those who had been abroad. You can come back now. The first to receive the news was Yin Huan. He also had some connections in the country and knew that something seemed to have happened to Li Fan. Vertex. Chapter 21-22. What Li Fan did not expect was that the person who bought his two companies was actually an acquaintance, Yin Huan, who had once been beaten into a drowning dog by him. Back then, not only had he beaten Yin Huan into a drowning dog, he had also ruthlessly humiliated him. Yin Huan's fiancée had also followed him. To a man, this was naturally a very glorious thing. In Li Fan's opinion, Shi Yunhua did not like Yin Huan in the first place. It was Yin Huan who forced Shi Yunhua. He had only made a move to save a little girl in distress. How could he have known that when he begged Yin Huan to help, the condition he agreed to was that Yin Huan and Shi Yunhua were engaged? It was Shi Yunhua who had met Li Fan. In addition to the unwillingness in her heart, she had molded herself into a weak woman. In the end, Yin Huan, the person who had been moved by compassion, was the one who had truly suffered. Although his goal was not simple, at least it was not like what Li Fan had said, forcing Shi Yunhua to submit. Shi Yunhua could have found someone else. It was not him, Yin Huan, who had forced her to agree. Li Fan was a little regretful. He should have asked who had bought his two companies. Now that the contract had taken effect, it was too late to do anything. He thought that Yin Huan would humiliate him in front of everyone, even more than he had in the past. Unexpectedly, Yin Huan only nodded at him and walked past him. At the same time, he looked at his watch. There's still a meeting at 2 in the afternoon. Little Chun, try your best to arrange for people to come over and integrate these two companies. It would be best if we could keep the main talents in the company. It wouldn't be a problem to have more benefits. I still think highly of these two companies. I don't want the old employees to be in turmoil because of the company's acquisition. Hearing Yin Huan's voice gradually fading away, Li Fan was a little dazed. This was different from what he had imagined. Yin Huan did not humiliate him at all, and his gaze did not even linger on him for too long. It was as if they had only met before, and they were not familiar with each other at all. This feeling of being completely ignored made Li Fan feel uncomfortable. He thought that Yin Huan cared a lot about Shi Yunhua and would ask him to hand over Shi Yunhua or something. But no, that man seemed to have forgotten everything from the past. The two companies that were already useless in Li Fan's hands, in Yin Huan's heart, seemed to be very optimistic about the prospects of these two companies. Li Fan walked out of the meeting room in a daze, alone on the street. Everything in the past seemed like a dream. He had a lot of money and a big villa. He had also bought a small villa for his parents in their hometown. Each of his women had a high-end apartment under their name. He suddenly felt very lonely. There was no lack of food, clothes, and money to spend, but why did he feel so uncomfortable? He thought of Su Shirling. the girl who spoke sweetly and was somewhat arrogant. He called Su Shirling. Previously, the phone would be picked up after 2 rings, but now it rang 7 or 8 times before she picked up. Spirit, Li Fan, I don't think we're suitable for each other. Recently, I don't understand you anymore. You have too many women, you don't need me. So, let's break up. After we break up, you'll have some peace and quiet, and I won't have to suppress my temper and get jealous anymore. Li Fan wanted to say something, but the call had already been hung up. He stared blankly at the traffic and dialed another number. It was gone. Ying. Ying, today you. Are you Mr. Li? I'm sorry, Ying has a lot of work to do recently, so she doesn't have time to answer your call. If you have anything to say, just say it. When Ying is done with her work, I'll tell her. Vertex. Chapter 21-23. Li Fan stared blankly at the phone that had been hung up. He remembered that no matter when he called Gan Ying in the past, even if the other party was in the middle of filming, she would always come over to listen to his call. It was different from now. Although Gan Ying's manager's voice was very polite, it was also very distant and cold. It was not as enthusiastic as before. He seemed to have understood something and was very unwilling in his heart. Li Fan returned to the villa and coincidentally bumped into Miao Han, who was leaving with her suitcase. He stopped her. You're leaving? Yes. Miao Han raised her head and saw Li Fan's dejected look. She thought for a moment before saying, compared to fighting with many women for you, I yearn for poetry and distance more. Ever since I was with you, I haven't bought a book for a long time. I originally thought that you were a very profound person, but it seems that I was wrong. Li Fan's face turned cold. Don't forget, I was the one who bought your poem and the house far away for you. Back then, you said that you liked the Seaview house, so I bought it for you without hesitation. Now, you want to leave me? I've already placed the property transfer certificate in the living room. When are you free? Let's go and complete the rest of the procedures together. Miao Han pushed up her glasses and said seriously, Li Fan, I really like the way you recite ancient poems under the spotlight, and I also like your different understanding of those famous names. But after living here, what I saw was more of a debauchery and extravagance. This is different from what I thought. I didn't take a single cent of what you gave me, and I didn't take any jewelry. Oh right, I took away a book that you once published, the one with your signature. Miao Han lowered her head and smiled sarcastically. Perhaps I like that kind of you. I'm a little realistic. You, who have no connotation and no talent, no longer attract me. Under Li Fan's stunned gaze, Miao Han left. I'm going to travel and look for my poem and distance. Li Fan felt that Miao Han had gone crazy. Among his women, this was the only one who broke up with him because she thought that he was no longer as talented, uncultured as before. In fact, she didn't even ask for anything from him. This made him feel that he had failed as a person. If Miao Han had asked for those things, he could still comfort himself by saying that the other party was vain and that the tea would turn cold after the person left. He could blame all the sins on her, but she didn't. Her reason for leaving made him feel ashamed. Walking into the villa, he looked at the bleak interior. There were 3 women sitting in the living room. His first love, Wu Shui, the well-behaved and obedient Du Yumei, and the assassin from Fusang Country, Lai Yu. Where's Nua Nua? Li Fan realized that Shi Yun Nua had disappeared and asked. Wu Shui gave him a complicated look and said, She left yesterday. Do you know what happened? Li Fan asked. At the same time, he took out his phone and called Shi Yun. The call was quickly connected. Nuna Yu. Little Fan, let's split up. Why? It's not a good influence. You're a student and I'm a teacher. If they continued to maintain such a relationship, it would be easy for others to criticize them and cause a lot of trouble for everyone. In the future, I will still be your teacher, and you will only be my student. Then why didn't you think it was a bad influence before? Shi Yun Nua didn't know what to say, because in the past, Li Fan could solve all the problems in the outside world. In the past, Li Fan would not let those hateful words hurt her. The current Li Fan could no longer protect her. If she did not cut off all ties with Li Fan, how would she be able to live the rest of her life? Vertex. Chapter 21-24. Sure Yunua, have I ever mistreated you? I'm sorry, Xiao Fan. Sure Yunua, you disappoint me too much. So you are also such a person. Xiao Fan, let's part on good terms. Li Fan was so angry that he laughed. Let's part on good terms? What a joke. These women were simply crushing his dignity on the ground and trampling on it. Sure Yunua didn't want to say anything more to Li Fan and hung up. As for the high-end suite that Li Fan had once given to every woman, other than Miao Han returning it, no one else subconsciously mentioned it. They all thought that after following Li Fan for a while, he was willing to give them things, so there was no reason for him to return them. After all, they had also paid a lot. Li Fan didn't seem to have any intention of pursuing the matter. In the end, he still cared about his face, even though he was unwilling in his heart. The three women in the villa didn't seem to have any intention of leaving. Wu Shui was the first to be together with Li Fan. It could be said that if it wasn't for Li Fan, she would have almost suffered and her entire life would be ruined. Therefore, she definitely wouldn't leave Li Fan now. Du Yomei's family background wasn't good. No matter what Li Fan was like now, at least by his side, she wouldn't be bullied, so she wouldn't leave. As for Liu, she was once controlled by the organization. Li Fan had saved her life, so she didn't have any intention of leaving. To her, Li Fan was no different from the past. Her personality was cold and she didn't care about these things. The three of them staying didn't move Li Fan. All the women left and were picked up by their families. It had already made his heart cold. Facing these three women who stayed behind, he was filled with vigilance. Even if they lived together, he wouldn't treat them like before. Very quickly, these women discovered that Li Fan was especially stingy towards them, not just a little stingy. Moreover, his attitude towards them wasn't good either. Du Yumei was the most upset. No matter how she coaxed Li Fan, she couldn't make him be as generous to her as before. Wu Shui silently looked at Li Fan. During the day, he still went out to fool around and smelled of perfume. After returning, he was no longer considerate to her, and his heart slowly turned cold. Liu was still the same. There weren't many feelings between her and Li Fan. One morning, Liu woke Li Fan up. Li Fan saw her standing in front of the bed and asked coldly, "You are leaving too?" "Yes." Liu replied indifferently and handed Li Fan a note. "I owe you a life. If you encounter anything in the future, give me a call and I will return it to you." After leaving the organization and Li Fan, Liu revealed a rare smile. She could be considered free now. From then on, only Du Yumei and Wu Shui were left in the villa. Life was still cold and indifferent. Li Fan would rather go out and fool around with those women than accompany them to go shopping and be considerate of them at home. In the end, Wu Shui couldn't take it anymore. "You're leaving too? I didn't want to leave, but you've changed so much that I don't recognize you anymore. Today, my parents asked me when we're getting married. They heard about what happened to you and asked me to bring you back to the small county to get married and live a good life. I don't think you'd want to, would you?" Li Fan stared at Wu Shui. "Then you still want to leave?" "Xiao Fan, you made me unable to see the future and hope. I want to leave. If you're willing to come back with me, we can start over. Let bygones be bygones." Vertex. Chapter 21-25. "No, if you want to leave, then leave. My current life is very good." He was drunk and didn't think about anything. As long as he gave money, he would be able to pick up women. He had money that he couldn't spend in his lifetime. There was no better time than now. Actually, he didn't have to be good to those women. If something happened, they would definitely be the first to turn around and leave. At this point, there was only one woman left by Li Fan's side, Du Yumei. She was different from the others. She was born in a remote mountain village, and her family valued boys over girls. She didn't have anything to rely on and was still timid. She could only rely on Li Fan. She also thought that if everyone left and only she stayed by Li Fan's side, Li Fan would finally understand who was sincere to him. However, she didn't expect that Li Fan would become addicted to gambling. He often spent a lot of money, but he couldn't bear to spend a single cent for her. But Du Yumei still believed that Li Fan would understand one day. A year later, Li Fan had already lost all his money and even sold that villa. Another year passed, and Li Fan lost all his assets under his name. He and Du Yumei moved into the house that he had bought for Du Yumei. She thought that Li Fan would change. After all, other than relying on him, she couldn't rely on anyone else. Half a year later, Li Fan's creditors came knocking. Du Yumei had tears in her eyes, afraid that those fierce people would sell the house to pay off Li Fan's debts. At this point, she had nothing again, and there was also Li Fan who was dragging her down. Li Fan's temper became bad, and he was not as handsome as before. He was not considerate to her, and in the end, he even hit her. She had no choice but to agree when her parents came looking for her and said that they had found a marriage for her. In the end, she married an old man who was 20 years older than her and was considered rich in their town. They had children together. In her free time, she would reminisce about those legendary years. Moreover, she realized that she was aging very quickly. At first, she didn't feel anything, but her life was not bad, but it still didn't slow down the speed at which she was aging. Suddenly, she remembered the pill that Li Fan had given her to eat. Calculating the time, 10 years had already passed. She looked at the two children at home and felt more at ease. Even if she was old and her husband was a playboy, at least she still had two children. At the same time, the women who had taken Li Fan's magical pills all discovered that they were aging faster and faster after 10 years. Although they did not become old women, it was obvious that they were older than their peers. Even though many products were launched in the country later on, they did not seem to be of much use to them. Su Shirling was the only one who did not take that kind of magical pill. However, after she left Li Fan and completed her studies, she was introduced by her family and married into a family of equal social status. After they got married, the man rarely came home, especially after she gave birth to the child. It was normal for him not to come home for a few months. Even if she didn't eat that miraculous pill, Su Shirling still looked older than her peers due to her unhappiness. The same thing happened to other women who had taken the pill. Naturally, women were unwilling to accept it. Especially Gan Yingying. She couldn't accept that she was so old. Her temper was getting worse and worse. Without Li Fan and her beautiful face, she was slowly being eliminated by this circle. Now that she was not beautiful, even the boss didn't like her. Basically, there was no show to act in, no endorsement to accept. She sat on the sofa angrily and looked at Wen Yawei, who had once again won the Best Actress award on the screen. She threw the remote control forcefully. Why? Why are you still alive? Your face was obviously burned. Why were you cured? Peak. Chapter 21-26. 3 days later, Gan Yingying was arrested on suspicion of intentional assault. In the group frowny face Wen Yawei, let me tell everyone a piece of good news. The culprit who harmed me has been arrested. She is going to be sentenced. Ziyun, congratulations, Sister Yawei. Margaret, that's great. The people in the group sent their blessings one after another. When Tanghua saw this news, she also saw the hot search of Gan Yingying's arrest. This matter was very big. Miao Han also realized that she was aging quickly, but she didn't care that much, because what she pursued was poetry and distance. Appearance was no longer important to her. Over the years, she had been to many places, but she still couldn't find anyone who resonated with her. In the end, she chose to be alone for the rest of her life. But no matter where she went, she would always bring the book about names that Li Fan had once published. Afraid that it would be broken, she even wrapped the book with a thick cover. In the end, Wu Shui returned to the county and married into a corresponding family. She lived a mediocre life. It couldn't be said to be happy, but it couldn't be said to be unhappy. It was just that in her spare time, she would recall the time that she had once thought was inconceivable. When the 10 years were up, she aged very quickly. However, her honest husband beside her didn't care much, and their common goal was to raise a pair of children. They didn't ask for anything else. Many nights when she woke up, Wu Shui thought that everything was a dream. Her husband beside her would ask her, "What's wrong?" She answered mechanically, "Nothing, I had a dream." "Oh, then go to sleep. You still have to wake up early to go to work tomorrow." And Li Fan didn't know about this. He was later found by his parents and brought back to the small county. He seemed to have become the silent Li Fan of the past. His family used their connections to let him work as a temporary worker in a unit. He looked ordinary and had a dull personality. He was already in his 30s and couldn't find a wife. His parents were worried sick about this. Later on, some people said that Li Fan was crazy because occasionally, when Li Fan got angry, he would angrily tell them not to bully the poor young. He told them not to look down on people. They thought it was ridiculous. What young man? In a few years, he would be a greasy uncle in his 40s. Was he still asleep or drunk? Li Fan would always be in a corner, muttering some words that they didn't understand. Something about him being depressed was only temporary, and there would be a day when he would soar into the sky. That's right, Li Fan was waiting for the system store to come back and bind him. He swore that the result would be different this time. Then, those people who were planning to introduce Li Fan to a girl completely gave up. Introducing her to this lunatic, wouldn't that be harming the girl? 3 years after Li Fan's accident, Tanghua and Fu Yinji got married. After the Fu family moved their headquarters back to the country, many Chinese enterprises moved back one after another. The country's economy was becoming more and more developed. After the country obtained the system store, countless researchers researched and developed all kinds of products that were beneficial to the country and the people. The country was rapidly developing. At a banquet, Tanghua and Fu Yinji were strolling on the dance floor and became the envy of everyone. There are so many people here today. Have you recovered? No, but it's much better than before. Only Xiaogua is by my side. When he's holding my hand, the opposite sex can't affect me. But Xiaogua isn't by my side, so it's still very uncomfortable. Can I understand that you can't leave me? That's how it should be understood. Fu Yinji bit her ear and said happily, I won't be able to leave you in this lifetime. I'm sick, and you're my medicine. Cough, cough. Can you guys be more careful? Peek. Chapter 21-27. You guys are really hurting a single dog like me. Yin Huan floated to their side. Even though he didn't have a dance partner, he didn't want to be left out. He even held a wine glass and swayed on the dance floor, becoming a unique scene that attracted countless people's attention. Tanghua glanced at Yin Huan. I'm going to the winery with Yinji next month. Bring me along. Boss, bring me along. Yin Huan was so happy that his dance steps were messed up. He showed a pleading expression. No matter what, you have to bring me along. I'll carry your bag for you. You want to carry my bag? Fu Yinji was unhappy. Xiaogua's bag can only be carried by me. I'll open the way for you. Yin Huan quickly changed his words. He had long coveted the Fu family's winery. You guys continue to be lovey-dovey. I'll go and dance. I won't disturb you guys. With that, he took the wine glass and quickly jumped to the other side of the dance floor, causing a commotion. System. TSK. Another lackey. He really knows how to adapt to the situation. No integrity. I really want to be the wine glass in President Yan's hands. At least I can dance with him. Sigh. Who doesn't want to? President Yan is handsome and rich, but he's a celibate. He'd rather dance with a wine glass than dance with a female partner. Forget it. Forget it. Give up. Have you heard of President Yan's story? Who hasn't heard of it? But I think President Yan has seen through it. He looks very happy now. I think so. Who can dance with a wine glass so happily? Sure, Yin Nuo was also at this banquet, but she hid in a corner and looked at Yin Hua, who was the center of attention. She later married someone with a good family background. But every time she saw Yin Huan, she felt ashamed and wanted to find a hole to hide in. Yin Huan's dazzling appearance made her feel like mud in a puddle. She remembered that once, she accidentally fell, and it was Yin Huan who helped her up. She thought that they had a past, but she didn't expect him to just say, "Be careful next time." Then, he turned and left without even looking at her. Later, she found out that Yin Huan had announced to the public that he was a celibate. He even said that all his assets would be donated after his death, including all his organs. If Li Fan did not appear in this world, would their lives be the same? Sure, Yun Nua's eyes were filled with confusion. In this world, Tanghua lived until she was 65 years old. She left first, and Fu Yinji followed her not long after. They had lived a happy life, and everyone had witnessed their love. The two of them didn't have any descendants, nor did the old housekeeper. He had passed away decades ago. Therefore, they also donated all their assets, which caused a great sensation. When Yahweh was already 70 years old, she knew about the love between Fu Yinji and Tanghua and was envious of them. She hadn't found a lover in her life. Actually, she didn't need one. Her life was very fulfilling. Love was something that could not be forced. She was much happier than most people because she had a group of cute little friends. However, she already felt that she wouldn't be able to stay in this world for long. In this life, she had won countless Best Actress and Best Actress awards. It was complete. She was very touched by the love between Fu Yinji and Tanghua, so she went to the restaurant where they had their first meal. She heard that everything in this restaurant was changed every time, but the seats where the two of them sat on their date would not change. Only the same tablecloth would be changed. This place had become a place where many people visited, but they needed to make an appointment. It was her turn today. When she sat down, when Yahweh felt that something was wrong, especially when she looked at the photo on the table, she felt that she had seen it somewhere before. This is a photo of Mr. Fu and Mrs. Fu holding hands on their first date. Our boss wanted to use it as a souvenir, so they generously kept it, the restaurant waiter explained patiently. When Yahweh thought of something and turned on her phone, she found the cloud photo album in the group and flipped through it for a long time before she found the exact same photo. A smile appeared on her pale face, and she sent a message to the group. When Yahweh, school bell, is your name Tanghua? Was your lover in the other world called Fu Yinji? The others were shocked and immediately understood what was going on. However, Tanghua did not reply, but the people in the group replied that it was her. When Yahweh, then I understand. I didn't expect the world to be so small. Where did the school bell go? Ziyun, maybe he's teleporting to a new world. Sister Yahweh, are you feeling regretful? Wait a little longer. She will come to the group when things are settled. When Yahweh, no, there is nothing to be disappointed about. It is my honor to be in the same world as the school bell. I have saved a lot of photos of them. I can look at them every day before I die. She would not tell the people in the group that she had been a fan of Fu Yinji and Tanghua for her entire life. They were like honey in her life. Every time there was a new photo of the two of them, she would be the first to see it. She was also the president of their fan club. Hee. Peak. Chapter 21-28. This time, Tanghua was awoken by the little girl's cries. While the little girl was crying her heart out, she was desperately trying to call out, "Big sister, big sister," accompanied by another voice, little girl, don't struggle. Be good, uncle. Uncle will take good care of you." Hearing this somewhat drunken and wretched voice, Tanghua struggled to open her eyes and got up like a carp. Quickly looking around, she saw a little girl struggling on the ground. Beside her was a middle-aged man who was dressed sloppily and had red cheeks. He looked like he was drunk. The little girl was no more than 5 years old, and she also noticed that her hands and feet had become shorter. Before she could determine what kind of situation she was in and what kind of identity she was in, her eyes searched around and found an iron rod. This seemed to be an abandoned factory, and there were all kinds of rotten iron parts inside. The iron rod in her hand was not light, and with her small body, she could only pick it up because of her mental strength. If it was a little girl, or the original owner herself, in this situation, there would only be despair. How could two little girls who were not even 10 years old fight a grown man, even if the other party was drunk? She did not think too much and rushed over with the iron rod. The middle-aged man seemed to have noticed it, but it was too late. Tanghua smashed the iron rod on the back of his head. The middle-aged man's body stiffened and he fainted, falling to the side like a dead pig. Tanghua looked at the little girl on the ground. Only her clothes were pulled open by the other party, and there were a few finger marks on her jade-like little face. Other than that, there was no other injury. The little girl also felt that she was saved. Crying, she climbed up from the ground and saw Tanghua standing in front of her. Her little face was pale as she threw herself into her arms, calling out, "Big sister." Tanghua immediately understood that they were sisters. She gently patted the little girl's back, comforting her that it was all right. The little girl did not know if she was tired from crying, but she actually fell asleep in her arms. At the same time, Tangwa saw that the middle-aged man would not wake up for a while. In addition, she was already prepared and was not afraid that he would wake up. She began to carry the little girl and receive the memories of this world. After looking through the memories of this world, Tangwa looked at the middle-aged man with a ferocious gaze. The system was instantly shocked. It had been a long time since its master had shown such a fierce and cold expression. It looked as if she would walk over in an instant and kill the unconscious middle-aged man. Isn't it too easy to kill him? The system said weakly. Then what will the host do? Of course it's to give him a taste of his own medicine. If he doesn't experience the suffering of the original owner, how can he be worthy of me coming to this world? This world is really fun. There's no hurry. Let's play slowly. My favorite thing is to torture perverts. Tangwa's body was only 7 years old, and the little girl in her arms was only 5 years old. She was her younger sister, and her name was Tang Ran. She was the female lead of this world. This world was not a beautiful one. Both the male and female leads had bad endings, but they were not bad people. She naturally did not like this kind of ending. It could be said that the malice of this world was fully expressed by the original owner and the male and female leads. Peak. Chapter 21-29. Tangwa first went to the group chat and immediately noticed that when Yahweh's name was grayed out. Did Yahweh leave? Ziyun, she's been gone for 3 days. She seems to know that you were in the same world as her before. Demo Yuntian, Yahweh doesn't regret it. She even asked us to pass you a message to thank you. The people in the group briefly told Tangwa about when Yahweh's situation. They had all experienced life and death. When Yahweh had lived a happy life, and it wasn't a bad thing to die of old age. However, they were more or less sad that a familiar friend had passed away. Because of the existence of this group, everyone was in different worlds. Their sincere hearts were basically left behind by this group. Even the indifferent immortal cultivators were very emotional. Tangwa also told them about her situation, which made everyone angry. She told them what she wanted to do. Finally, she said goodbye to her friends in the group and woke up. She fed Tang Ran a pill. This pill could make Tang Ran fall into a deep sleep. No matter what happened next, she would not wake up. Finally, she went to the drunkard who was still in a coma and stared at him coldly. Dear host, I've checked. There are no surveillance cameras here. From now on, I've erased all the surveillance cameras on the streets that you and Tang Ran have passed. Currently, I'm checking to see if you left any traces on the road. Very good. Tangwa didn't wake the drunkard up. She didn't plan to wake him up. She just waited for him to wake up. If she hadn't come today, there would have been a heart-wrenching scene. Today, the original owner and her sister were going home from school. The original owner was in the 1st grade, and her sister was in kindergarten. The place where they lived was relatively remote. It was a very old community, and they would pass by an abandoned factory on the way. It was on this road that they met this drunkard named Shijun. This drunkard had a special hobby. It was a fetish for children that was often shameful, and it was a very perverted hobby. It was said that drunkards had courage, but it could also be that drunkards used their courage to do things that they instinctively wanted to do. Such beautiful little girls, he could not help but take action. With one in each hand, he brought the 2 sisters to the abandoned factory. Because the original owner struggled so much, she was knocked unconscious by his fist on the back of her head. But he woke up halfway, which happened to be the time when Tangwa woke up. The original owner was not Tangwa. She was just an ordinary little girl. When she saw her sister being bullied by bad people, she naturally wanted to stop them. This attracted the attention of the drunkard. He thought that she was trouble and planned to make a move on her first. Chapter 21-30. The drunkard was satisfied and sobered up a lot. Looking at the dying original host and the mangled flesh around her, he didn't dare to continue attacking her sister and quickly left. Her sister had been desperately trying to break the rope binding her. She even used her teeth to bite the rope, but it was too late. She ran to the dying original host and saw the blood flowing out. She couldn't cry anymore. The original host still had some consciousness and told her to call for help. She had someone call the emergency number and then call the police. The 5-year-old sister finished everything and waited by the original host's side. When he was found, the 5-year-old child was sitting next to the badly mutilated 7-year-old girl in a daze. He didn't say a single word. In the end, the original host kept her life, but her body was seriously injured. The drunkard was too ruthless and damaged the place where she defecated. With the help of kind-hearted people in society, they donated money to make her a man-made one. She could live, but she had to wear a bag of defecation on her body every day. Because it was man-made, it couldn't be controlled by human instinct. So it was easy to not be noticed when it was full, and it would emit a strange smell. At school, she was despised by her classmates. How could her peers understand this? Seemingly ignorant words hurt her a second time. The originally cheerful little girl became silent. If she didn't have a sister to take care of, she might have really killed herself. At first, with the help of society, her stepmother and father took care of them. The two used the original host's injuries to receive a large amount of donations. But later, her father and stepmother thought the two sisters were a burden. At home, they didn't treat them well. Her stepmother's words stabbed at the original host's heart, calling her a little slut. If it wasn't for her sister, she wouldn't have been able to hold on. She later dropped out of school, but with her situation, she couldn't go out to work. She won because her voice was good, so she helped record people reading aloud. She almost didn't go out. She would only talk to her sister when she came back from school. Later, she earned some money and rented a house. Her sister didn't go back to that house anymore. Every time she came back from school, she would go to her place. Her sister Tang Ran swore in her heart that she would succeed as soon as possible and give her sister the best care. But after she was admitted to university, the host couldn't hold on any longer. The second time she was hurt by the internet, and the people around her had already made her depressed. What hurt her the most was that the mother of the original owner came and asked her for money, but she didn't give it. The mother of the original owner didn't give up and scolded her. These words caused her illness to act up, and she finally chose to commit suicide. The younger sister's face was cold, but in fact, she was painfully accepting all of this. Everyone thought that this was the end. His sister was admitted to university and would slowly forget about this matter. But the real story had only just begun. Later on, that drunkard died an unnatural death on the day he was released. Following that, there were many murders all over the country. These people were similar to drunkards. Some of them had done bad things, some of them had spread the video, and some of them had helped the tyrant. None of them had escaped the punishment of the Grim Reaper. At that time, countless people panicked, especially those who had that kind of hobby. They did not dare to do such things again, and the videos were all deleted. Based on the crime scene, the police listed the murderer as a high IQ criminal. They chased after him for more than 10 years, but couldn't find a trace. Her sister Tangran had been controlling everything behind the scenes. Anyone who dared to reveal such thoughts would be killed within 2 days. Later on, she met a good person and fell in love. Later on, she got married. On the day of the wedding, she died. She committed suicide. Before she died, she left a message for her groom. "I'm not wrong. It's been hard on you to sacrifice everything to get close to me. Even if I die, I won't surrender. Those people deserve to die." In the end, the groom cried in front of her grave, "I never thought of catching you. I planned to pretend to be a fool for the rest of my life. I'm sorry, I didn't make it clear. I promise that as long as I'm alive, I'll catch those bad people you mentioned." Ran. Okay. Peek. Chapter 2131. After an unknown amount of time, Shijun, who had been knocked out by Tanghua, slowly woke up. He only felt some pain at the back of his head, and his head was still a little groggy. Suddenly, he remembered something, and his mind became much clearer. He seemed to have sobered up. When he thought of those two beautiful little girls, his heart became a little fervent. If he remembered correctly, the one who had knocked him out was a slightly older girl. To be honest, the 7-year-old girl was the prettiest, and her age was just right. When he remembered that he had been knocked out by a young girl, Shurjun's face became very ugly. His life was very comfortable now. His parents had passed away early and left him a small Western-style house. Later, this place was occupied and high-rise buildings were built. He was lucky enough to become a relocated household and received a huge amount of compensation. He also received a few houses. Now, he relied on rent to live. His daily life was to drink with others in the morning and go home in the afternoon. Oh right, he also had a wife. Because he had a huge amount of money, even if he fooled around outside, his wife did not dare to say anything. Most importantly, he only went out to play some cards and drink a little. Although he had a bad temper, he would not go to those kinds of places like other men. Because of this, his wife worked hard at home without complaint and did not care much about him. In fact, other than himself, no one knew that he did not go to those places because he was not interested in them. To be precise, he was not interested in adult women at all. What he was interested in were young girls above 5 years old and below 10 years old. His wife thought that he watched adult movies in the study every night. In fact, the things he watched were more exciting than those movies, because the main characters were the kind of young girls he liked. However, in reality, he did not dare to do that. Today, he was drunk. The weather was bad, and it was a little dark. He suddenly saw 2 young girls passing by. Without thinking, he grabbed one of them with each hand and brought them to this abandoned warehouse. Then, before he remembered what to do, he touched the young girl's tender little face. It was really the kind that could be squeezed out with a pinch. Sure enough, it felt the same as in the videos. The more Shurjun thought about it, the more he couldn't sit still. He had been knocked unconscious by the other girl. She should have run away by now, right? Annoyed, he sat up and suddenly realized that something was wrong. He raised his head and saw a beautiful girl sitting on an abandoned wooden plank next to him. He looked left and right, but did not see the other little girl. "Uncle, you're awake?" Shurjun did not expect that this young lady was not afraid and actually asked if he had woken up. Although he always felt a little strange, there was something in his heart that he wanted to do. He had been holding it in for many years. This tender little girl in front of him, as long as he went over and hugged her, he would be able to do whatever he wanted. Shurjun licked his dry lips. Enduring the pain at the back of his head, he slowly stood up. "Since you're awake, let's continue with the unfinished business." A sweet smile appeared on Tangwa's face. In an instant, Shurjun seemed to have seen an unbelievably clean little angel. He was completely bewitched. His mind was filled with the thought of seeing this little girl crying miserably in front of him later. "Uncle, are you ready? Then let's start?" Shurjun nodded excitedly. Let's start. He could not wait. Peek. Chapter 2132. In an abandoned warehouse, there was a pitiful cry. Just by listening to the sound, one could tell how much pain the person was in. If someone heard it, their scalp would go numb, and they would be very curious about the tragic scene that happened inside. Host, no one passed by here. 20 minutes later, the system reported the matter to Tangwa while checking the surrounding situation. He glanced at Shurjun's condition and couldn't help but shudder. Sure enough, the host was a person who would do as he said. Shurjun's vision was blurred. He lay on the ground in pain and looked at the little girl standing in front of him smiling happily. At this time, he didn't think that the smile on her face was as clean as an angel's. What angel? She was clearly a demon from hell, a demon who could take people's lives. "Uncle, are you happy?" Shurjun couldn't even move his fingers. If he could, he really wanted to jump up and slap her. Happy? No one would be happy after being hurt like this. Pain. It was as if he was being torn apart. It made him want to faint. As long as he was alive, he definitely wouldn't let this little girl have an easy time. "Are you desperate?" The little girl's sweet voice sounded. It was a little ethereal and had a hint of gloating coldness. "I don't know if you're desperate now, but I know that you'll be very desperate in the future." Shurjun forced his eyelids open. He could feel the pain in certain parts of his body. It was so painful that he was about to go numb. He swore that as long as he was alive, he would let this little girl experience what he had experienced sooner or later. I'm leaving. Jun's eyelids couldn't open anymore. He only heard Tangwa's voice drifting into his ears. I've already called the emergency number for you. They should be here soon. Don't worry, you won't die. I was very careful when I attacked. The moment Jun lost consciousness, he saw Tangwa put the white glove on Xiao Xiao's hand into her pocket and turn to leave. Demon. She was a little demon. This was Jun's last thought before he lost consciousness. Host, I've already scanned. Not a single strand of hair is left. Under the system's precise scanning, even a piece of dandruff could be scanned. Okay. All the items in the warehouse that belonged to Tangwa and Tangran had been removed by her. She turned to the other side and woke Tangran up. Tangran hugged her arm tightly when she woke up and looked around. Sister, where's that bad uncle? He's asleep. Wasn't he asleep? Tang Mao heaved a sigh of relief and said nervously, Then let's run, sister. That uncle is a bad guy. He looked so scary just now. Tangwa quickly nodded and held the little girl's hand. Looking at the red fingerprints on the little girl's cheeks, she took out a bottle of medicine and applied it on the little girl's face. This is medicine. It won't hurt anymore after you apply it. Tangran obviously trusted Tangwa a lot. She was only 5 years old and only knew that Jun was a bad guy. She didn't know much about other things. Tangwa said that she would apply some medicine to relieve the pain. Once she applied it, it really didn't hurt anymore. She smiled happily. Ran, what happened today is our secret. Don't tell anyone. Tangran tilted her head in confusion. The teacher said to call the police if we meet a bad guy. Sister, are we going to let the bad guy go just like that? Vertex. Chapter 21:33. The system almost laughed out loud. This little girl didn't know anything, but she knew to call the police if she met a bad guy. Do you think we're hurt? We're all kids, not even 10 years old yet. If we make a big fuss and call the police, they'll think that we're lying and call the police for fun. They won't believe us. Tangran was in a dilemma. Obviously, she didn't want to let the bad guy off. But the bad guy wasn't punished. Tangran didn't want to give up. The teacher said that if we don't stop the bad guy, he'll bully others. Tangwa patted Tangran's head and said seriously, the bad guy will be punished. That bad uncle will be punished. Really? Really? Okay, I believe in you. That bad uncle will definitely be punished. So, Ran, you have to keep what happened today a secret. If Dad and Annie find out about what happened today, we'll be scolded again. If we make Annie angry, she'll tell Dad not to let us go to school. Hearing this, Tangran nodded in fear. Auntie was really fierce. She only liked her younger brother, and Dad only liked her younger brother now. Although she was only 5 years old, she could still feel some changes. Ran, we have to pinky swear. No matter who asks about what happened today, you have to say that we went home right after school. How we went home in the past is how we went home today. If someone asks you why you went home today, you have to say that you stayed on the road to play for a while. Tangran nodded vigorously and pinky swear with Tangwa. In the eyes of a child, once you pinky swear, you couldn't go back on your word. Tangwa saw that Tangran's clothes were a little dirty and patted her. The system helped her find the way and changed the time they passed by. It was an unusual world with unusual means. Although it was a little shameful to lie to a child, this was the best way. She wouldn't feel good if she didn't vent her anger. When they got home, they didn't see Tang Yuankuan, their stepmother, Su Siyun, and their 1-year-old brother. On the table, there were 2 buckets of poo. That's right, the couple went out to eat again. They couldn't wait for them to come back from school, so they left some for the 2 sisters. As for the morning, Su Siyun wanted to sleep in and would not get up to make breakfast for them. Tang Yuankuan would give the 2 sisters some money and let them eat outside. Other than Su Siyun, who didn't really like them and didn't take care of them, Tang Yuankuan didn't starve them. It was just that they didn't eat well. Basically, they had to make do at night. In the morning, he gave them money to buy breakfast and had lunch in the school cafeteria. The school used meal cards. Tang Yuan would regularly add food to Tangwa's meal card, and the two sisters would have lunch together. In short, Tang Yuan let the two sisters live freely. As long as they were obedient and didn't cry or make a fuss, eating and going to school wasn't a problem. As for other things, there was no way he was going to ask for them. Tangwa asked Tang, ran to change out of her dirty clothes and throw them into the washing machine. Then, she went to cook and eat instant noodles. She didn't want to eat instant noodles. Fortunately, the original owner also knew how to cook at this time. Cooking at the age of 7 was not a rare thing in many families. As for the 2 bowls of instant noodles, she still brought them into her room. Sometimes, when she was hungry, she could use them to satisfy her hunger. Vertex. Chapter 21:34. They were not even 10 years old yet. Age was indeed a problem. Tang Yuan even gave them money to support them and let them go to school. Their biological mother, Li Keshu, was different. She had been divorced for almost 3 years, and there was no news from her. Li Keshu had a bad temper and was selfish. She loved to be beautiful and always wanted to marry a rich man. Tang Yuan's family background was ordinary. Li Keshu was always unwilling. However, she had to marry him when she reached the age. But after giving birth to 2 daughters, Tang Yuan was not satisfied with her and did not let her manage the family's money. They quarreled many times because they did not have a son. In the end, Li Keshu could not stand it and divorced Tang Yuan. In front of the 2 sisters, Tang Yuan did not directly say that he did not want a daughter. Instead, he asked them to be more sensible. Occasionally, he would show some concern and buy some candy and biscuits to coax them. In short, he would not leave behind any good words. In any case, they were his daughters. When they grew up in the future, they could help his precious son. There was no benefit to falling out with them. Especially now that the 2 sisters were smarter and had good grades, they might be successful in the future. It was not expensive to study now. He could afford to support 2 people. As long as they did not sign up for extra tuition, it was easy to support them. If they could not study well, they could work earlier. If he was too harsh, it would not be worth it to raise 2 enemies. The little girls did not understand these. At first, they thought that their father cared about them. But later, when they had a younger brother, they gradually realized something. But in their hearts, they still longed for a father's love. Until that incident. When Tang Yuan was not around, their stepmother, Su Si-yun, would warn them not to cry. Everything in the house belonged to their younger brother. If they dared to make a fuss, she would tell their father not to let them study and throw them to the streets to pick up rubbish. Su Si-yun said this because Tang Yuan's old house was demolished last year. Not only did he get a new house, but he also got a share of the money. Because of the 2 sisters, they got a large area. This was one of the reasons why Tang Yuan was more generous to the 2 sisters. But later, when the accident happened, the original owner became a burden. Wherever the couple went, they would be pointed at. In addition, she lived at home, so there was always a strange smell. In the beginning, they were quite willing to accept countless donations from kind-hearted people. Later, she heard that the original owner's body would undergo follow-up treatment and that there might be other problems in the future. In the future, when the technology was more advanced, it might be possible to replace her with a better one. Both husband and wife were unwilling to spend large amounts of money on her. That money was all for his son. In their eyes, the original host was already a cripple. In her current state, what else could she do? Although they were dissatisfied, they did not intend to chase him away. However, the cold treatment made the original owner feel that she couldn't stay in this house any longer and moved out. They had also seen the horror of public opinion. If they were really photographed mistreating the original owner, they would definitely be scolded to death. Therefore, in front of outsiders, they did everything perfectly. No one would think that they had mistreated the original host. Later, when the original owner moved out, some people did ask about it. They just said sadly that after that incident, the original owner's temper became more and more strange. She wouldn't listen to anything and insisted on moving out. They couldn't stop her. As a result, those who were already attacking the original owner added another line to attack her. She wanted to talk about transmigration. Female supporting character, calm down with more like-minded people. Talking about life, looking for a confidant, vertex. When Shurjun woke up, it was already 2 days later. His wife was already waiting by his side. Her face was very pale and her eyes were red. No matter what, the two of them were husband and wife. Shurjun usually treated her quite well. Other than playing cards and drinking a little, he did not go out to fool around. Now that such a big thing had happened, she didn't feel good either. Now that Shurjun was almost crippled, half of her happiness had been destroyed. Shurjun was still a little confused. Before the woman could answer, he had already reacted. I'm in the hospital? He felt the pain in his body and his expression changed. What happened to me? He wants to talk to more like-minded people about transmigration. Female supporting character, calm down. Talking about life, looking for confidence. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.